Hey, what's happening, Baltimore Ravens fans? Welcome back to the Bald Perspective. On your way in, tap that like button, hit subscribe if you've never subscribed, and hit that notification bell so you get updates when we upload new content. Let's talk. So it's time for us to complete our quarterback conversation as it pertains to do the Baltimore Ravens have what they need as we were assessing the Baltimore Ravens roster. And of course, we started with the most important position on any team, which is the quarterback. And so we're going to compare our quarterback room to other AFC North teams. And then we're going to talk about a quarterback ranking, if you will, amongst AFC, as some controversy jumped off last week when Colin Cowherd came out with his AFC North ranking. So let's start inside the AFC North. When we're looking at quarterback rooms, we're talking about backup and starter, starter and backup. I have to put the Baltimore Ravens quarterback room at the top when you have Lamar Jackson and Tyler Huntley. Not just because I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan, but if I'm taking into consideration a 2026 sample size from both the starter and the backup, and we were able to see starters and backups for every team in the AFC North last season, I'm going with Lamar Jackson and Tyler Huntley. When Lamar Jackson was healthy, he played on schedule, he played fast, he played free, he played pretty good ball. But the honest truth is, Lamar Jackson probably wasn't healthy last season from the first game when he took a big hit, I think from the Buffalo edge rusher, um, Ed Oliver. Don't think he was healthy since that point. But when he was under center, before he had injury designations, he played pretty good ball. Now, we understand that Cooper Rush stepped in, did a terrible job, absolute train wreck, and they had to go and bring in Tyler Huntley. And when Tyler Huntley came in relief of Cooper Rush, he played pretty well. He kept the Baltimore Ravens offense on schedule, kept them moving, put up some points, didn't have a lot of mistakes. He actually looked pretty good. And so when I'm taking into total context, I'm going Baltimore Ravens in the AFC have the best quarterback, excuse me, AFC North have the best quarterback room. If I'm going to give some position to the next room, I'm going Joe and Joe over in Cincinnati, Joe Burrow and Joe Flacco. We were able to see both of the Joes last season. And just like Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow spent a good portion of time on the injured list. Joe Flacco did play good, but I think that kind of highlights how good this Cincinnati Bengals offensive talent is. No knock to anybody, but I would put the Cincinnati Bengals quarterback room into that second spot. If I'm continuing to go down this list, I'm going to slot in the Pittsburgh Steelers as they have most recently brought back, as I expected, Aaron Rodgers to link up with McCarthy in Pittsburgh for at least one more season. I think that he brings some stability. I think he'll be able to keep this offense on track. And so I have to slot him in or them in to that number three spot, and then I would go with the Cleveland Browns in the fourth spot. Cleveland has had trouble finding a quarterback, sticking with a quarterback. They brought in Deshaun Watson, as we all know, many years ago, gave him a fully guaranteed deal, and we have not seen much great football from him. In fact, you would have to go all the way back to Houston to find good Deshaun Watson football. Nevertheless, he is expected to be the leader in the clubhouse as it pertains to the starting quarterback spot, followed by probably Shador Sanders and then Dylan Gabriel. I think all three make the roster, but I think that that leaves more questions than you have answers, which is why I put Cleveland in that bottom spot. So that is how I come out with the quarterback room ranking. Now, the purpose of this exercise is we're going to go roster for roster throughout the entire AFC, as we do have a long summer stretch where there's not going to be anything happening for real on field, with the exception of OTAs as they have started today. When we zoom out of the AFC North and we look at the entire AFC, I'm still putting, if I'm looking at quarterback rooms, I'm still putting the Baltimore Ravens at the very top of the AFC and at the very top of the NFL when it comes to starter and backup. A lot of teams fall off a cliff when the backup comes into the game, but Tyler Huntley came in last year with basically the same offensive talent with the exception of a few rookies, and he showed very well. That's why I pushed the Baltimore Ravens to the top of the quarterback room list. Not because I'm saying that Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback in the league, just because as a collective, I think we have one of, if not the best quarterback situations if we ever had to call upon our backup QB, right? Now let's go to individual quarterback rankings to kind of revisit and recite Colin Cowherd's list last week that brought the controversy, especially to Baltimore Ravens fans, having Lamar Jackson down at number 5. I think his list went number 1, Josh Allen, number 2, I think it was Patrick Mahomes, then it was Joe Burrow, then it was Justin Herbert, then it was Lamar Jackson. And to be all the way honest, I think what these sports pundits, commentators, sports show hosts, I think really what they're trying to do with a level of consistency is wait on the potential to happen. Here's what I mean. We understand that of those quarterbacks that's listed, right? Two of them are number one overall picks, which would be Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence wasn't listed, but Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence are number one picks. I will put Trevor Lawrence at number 6. I would then go Drake May and Bo Nix in a close 7 and 8. And the two guys that have been waited on hand and foot to kind of step into whatever they're supposed to be in the NFL is Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence. But the honest truth is, they've never crossed over into the elite threshold. They have elite talent, they have elite size, elite athletic traits, but putting it all together to be in a consistent playoff race, contention, Super Bowl potential, they have not done it. Whether it's been injuries, whether it's been the roster around them, or whether it's just been them themselves playing bad. And I think that's why you keep seeing commentators, pundits, sports show hosts, so on and so forth. I think that's why you keep seeing them talk about Justin Herbert, talk about Trevor Lawrence, and even the fact of keep putting Joe Burrow above Lamar Jackson. This is not a cape up for Lamar Jackson or even a defense. I'm just saying I think they're still waiting on the potential. They're still waiting on the breakout. The breakout then goes to the long-term season to season success and candidacy for the best quarterback in the league. Joe Burrow has not had that. Joe Burrow has been consistently injured and uh, had one Super Bowl run. That's it. No personal acclaim, no personal accomplishments. He may have a Pro Bowl or something like that in there, but no MVPs, no any of that. When you look at Justin Herbert, doesn't have any playoff success, no regular season awards, none of that. He has some good numbers, but that's it. Trevor Lawrence, same difference. Same difference. So Lamar Jackson is the only one that keeps being slid down the list as if he's done less with his career. If you go just with a 5-year sample size and you start when Joe Burrow came into the league, I think that was 2020 as the number one overall pick, and you compare careers, Lamar Jackson still edges out every other guy on this list, except Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. So if I had to rank or make a list, I would go Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, maybe Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert doesn't really matter to me, and then the young thoroughbreds in Drake May and Bo Nix who are actually coming up this list for sure. And for Baltimore Ravens fans, well, Belanger, why would you put Josh Allen above Lamar Jackson? Look at their careers. Lamar Jackson has 2 MVPs, should have been 3 MVPs. Granted, I will grant you that for sure. But all I have, and here's what I do. I don't always go back and take in totality a person's career. That's what you do for the legacy conversation. That's what you do for the Hall of Fame conversation. If we're simply talking about the guy who is doing it the best when right now, and if the season is not going on, then I'm going with the previous season and I will lean into the season before. And so for this conversation, it will be 2024, 25 season and then the 25-26 season, which is the one that just closed out. And when I take a 2-year sample size, I have to put Josh Allen above Lamar Jackson. He does have an MVP in that time frame. Again, that should have been Lamar's MVP, but we can't argue that point. What was handed off was handed off. But he did put his team in the playoff both years. He did put Lamar Jackson and the Ravens out of the playoffs. He did, that's in 2024-25 season. He did beat them head to head again last season. Total collapse, Derrick Henry fumble. I get all of that. Defense is bad, but the wins and losses are still the wins and losses. Playoff bursts are still playoff bursts. Again, and I understand that he wet the bed last year in the playoffs when he probably had his most weakest competition. He was the vet in the playoffs as it pertains to quarterbacks last season, and he didn't get it done. But if I'm looking in totality, if I'm looking at 34 games over the course of 2 seasons, 24-25, 25-26, and I then look into playoff performances, I have to go Josh Allen, then Lamar Jackson. But why would I have Lamar Jackson over Patrick Mahomes? This is not a legacy conversation. This is not going back to Patrick Mahomes and what he's done from the beginning of his career. This is not the 5 Super Bowls and 3 titles and MVP. That's not this conversation. If I take the last 2 seasons of the Patrick Mahomes career, 24-25, 25-26, Lamar Jackson has been better. They both suffered injuries last season, but if I zoom out and take both seasons, you have to give Lamar Jackson the nod. And then Joe Burrow in the fourth spot, I got Patrick Mahomes over him. Patrick Mahomes has been better. Joe Burrow has not been in the playoffs. They get off the slow starts every season, and so I have to go with Patrick Mahomes. I go Joe Burrow just based on his experience and when he is available, that offense does look really good. And then everything else is going to be a toss up between Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. They have pretty much the same type of outcomes over the course of their careers. Not a lot of playoff success, no individual success as it pertains to MVPs, things of that nature. I think both maybe have a Pro Bowl. They definitely have some good numbers, but they definitely have not lifted their team into any AFC title contention, any of those things. So that's how I would rate them. Does that say Josh Allen is better than Lamar, or Lamar is better than Patrick Mahomes, or Patrick Mahomes is better than? No. This is not a better or worse conversation. This is a conversation where I take the last 2 years and look at what actually happened on the field, and I gave an order. That's it. And maybe we revisit the conversation next year this time because there's a 2026 season that has to be played out. But to zoom back in, AFC North, Baltimore Ravens have the best quarterback room, followed by the Bengals, followed by the Steelers, followed by the Browns. The next conversation is going to be about offensive lines, a conversation that has to be super nuanced. But until the next video, I'm out.